Hello, my lovelies. It is time for my December wrap-up vlog, so stay tuned. I started One Last Gift by Emily Stone for my first read. This works for Buzzword, which was like a holiday word in the title, and so gift. I managed to get to page 74 during the sprint. I have a feeling that this book is going to end up making me cry, which is kind of why I stopped when I did, because I have a feeling that the next chapter is going to get me. So at first I wasn't sure if I was going to continue with this book, because I really considered after the first, like the prologue and chapter 1, I thought I might like DNF it, because I wasn't fully vibing with the writing style. But, well, okay, so the prologue, our main character, Cassie, and her brother, Tom, they're living with their aunt, Claire, I believe her name is, because their parents have both died in a plane crash and stuff, and it's now Christmas, and their aunt doesn't really do a whole lot for Christmas, but her brother has always done, like, this fun little treasure hunt thing for her, and so that was something she was, like, looking forward to. It's like the only highlight of Christmas for her that year. Then it goes to, in chapter 1, she's now 18, and her best friend, her brother's best friend, Sam, I think his name is, she has got a major crush on Sam, and things that you can tell that there's kind of something there, but like nothing's ever acted upon, but there's definitely kind of like some flirty vibes, and they've been friends. All of them have been friends for a really, really long time now, but yeah, nothing ever really comes from it. Then the next chapter is 2 years later, and she's 20, and they go on a skiing holiday, and this is the point that things start like, yeah, getting a little bit more, but then things go very, very wrong very quickly, and she's kind of heartbroken, and she wants nothing to do with him anymore. But she doesn't tell Tom, because she doesn't want to take that friendship away from him, because they've been friends for like 15 years. But she no longer is friends with him and doesn't really want to. They're very snappy with each other from this point forward. And I know Tom and Sam, they're getting ready to go on this trip. They do a lot of adventuring type things together. So I think they're going like mountain climbing or something like that in Argentina. But I also know from just this first little bit of the synopsis that it says, Cassie and Tom lost their parents at a young age and relied on each other, as well as a community of friends to cope. They were especially close with Tom's best friend Sam, who always made sure that Tom and Cassie were surrounded with love. But now, 20 years later, Cassie has lost Tom as well, and in a way, she's also lost Sam. Over the years, they've drifted apart, and these days, the man she always had a crush on is someone she doesn't even recognize. So, I haven't gotten to where she loses Tom, and I just know that when that happens, it's going to hurt my soul. But, yeah, so that's not really a spoiler since it is just this last little bit, but yeah, that's why I think this book is going to hurt me, because I am invested now. Oh, on Tuesday I got to page 270, and as expected, it did very much make me cry. And that was like pretty much as soon as I started reading, and I knew that was coming. It hurt. It hurt a lot, and the hurt continued for a while, because it was like preparing for his funeral, all that stuff, and then just trying to make it day by day afterwards. Then somebody that she's staying with, she's been there for a couple of weeks after the funeral and everything, somebody else has been taking care of like cleaning out his stuff, found the letter that he left her for starting her treasure hunt, because he prepared it all before he went on this trip, because he wasn't going to be getting back until like Christmas Eve, and so he always has her first hint for the treasure hunt on Christmas Day, and then she's got to go through and find all the stuff, like all the other clues that lead her to her gift. And so he had already done everything, set everything up before he ever went. So she got the letter, and it took months before she could bring herself to open the letter, because she didn't want to think about him not being there and all that stuff. As she's been going, like when she did finally open it, and as she's been going through his clues and seeing the things that he wanted her to see or doing the things he wanted her to do, she's feeling closer and closer to him, and it's kind of healing her. And I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it. It's great. So yeah, I do need to finish this today. So earlier today, I finished One Last Gift by Emily Stone, and I had to actually take a little while before I could come and talk about it, because I cried 2 more times while reading this, but I ended the book crying. And I was just like, I am too emotional to talk about this book right now. I've pretty much told you all I really can about it without spoiling things, but there's a lot of hurt in here. There's a lot of healing and grieving that has to be done, and it does take course over, the majority of the book takes course over like a year, but I would say overall it takes course over several years. But it's heart-wrenching, it's beautiful, it's sweet. Yeah. And I loved it. And I'm going to have to give it 4.5 stars. I can't give it a full 5 stars just because the writing in the first little bit almost made me want to DNF it, because I just was not vibing with it. And I'm so glad that I continued on, because it was such a good book. I highly, highly recommend it. I believe could be something that can make me cry. So I'm going to go with this one. Okay, so only 4 pages in, and Ruth, this is, I think it's told in maybe in different times, but like I'm just on the first chapter, or the prologue even, and it's Ruth 1958 to 1963, the way things were back then. And yeah, so just on page 4 already, Ruth's father has died in a plane crash. Her mother gave birth to her sister Lily the day after her mother got the letter saying that he had died. And Lily and Ruth have to go live with the grandmother right after Lily's born, because their mother is not okay. So yeah, I think this was probably a good choice for a book that might make me cry. So I think this was a very good choice for a book that I think will make me cry. I didn't really cry while reading it, but I definitely did tear up. We follow like several different characters. I think the 4 main ones are Ruth, Dora, Alice, and Hank. And it's just how, well, they live in Alaska in Fairbanks. And it talks about fishing camps and just like a little slice of life from each of them, and how all their lives kind of intertwine with one another. And there's a lot of sad stuff that happens in here. But yeah, this is really good. I think I'll give this one a 3.5. I did get a good chunk read. I am currently here. I got to page 113. So I'm 10 chapters in. And I don't know how I'm feeling about this. The prologue got me. Like, I was hooked, and then it dropped. So in the prologue, this queen has just given birth, and we have these 2 characters. They're like something between like angels and humans or something like that. They've got like, they're super powerful and all that. And the younger one, it's him and his father. He hates the queen because she killed her husband, the king. And now she's about to give birth to this child. There's some angel or some being that can, like God or something, that can take over. And right after the baby's born, his father can sense this god trying to take over his body, or this angel or whatever it is trying to take over his body, and he warns his son, and he's fighting with this thing, and he throws himself out the window. The queen apparently is dealing with this same thing, and the son had no idea that the queen was dealing with this, but he was still like hating on her because of, her killing the king. And she ends up like thrusting the princess, her new baby, at him, and he's like, I think he said he was like 8 years old or something, and now he's got to go and like escape and take care of the princess. I was here for it. I was feeling it, and then it changed to like I think 2 years before that, and so I guess we're leading up to that happening, and I was just kind of like, okay, well maybe it'll get picked back up, but it's going back and forth in chapters between the queen, Eliana, the queen, Rael, and then Eliana, who is like a bounty hunter and assassin, and I'm more bounty hunter, and she brings them in to be put to death. But Eliana is like 1,000 years in, Eliana's now, and Queen Rael is 1,000 years in the past. And it's coming to be noticed that Eliana has special abilities, which several people have special abilities in this world, but they only have like one, like sun summoning or earth whatever, or one thing. And apparently she has all of them. This group wants her to join them, Invictus, and she is really not interested, but she wants to get her family away from this life and danger and all of that. And so she's been saving up money. And now she's got this last job that's going to give her enough money to at least get her family away, but she'll have to join Invictus afterwards. But then her family, her mother or her stepmother, it's the woman who's raising her, she gets kidnapped, and Eliana is desperate to find her. And so the person that she was supposed to be retrieving for this $20,000, she's now working with this person to help find her mother. And I don't know, it's okay. Like I said, it has picked up a little bit from where it dropped off. I'm feeling like this is going to be a 3-star for me, though, because it's just not super captivating for me. Okay, so I just finished Furyborn by Claire Legrand, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought. Like maybe halfway through, I was, by that point, I was like, okay, well, I'm enjoying Rael's story, which I think I misspoke earlier. Rael was the one that it had just become known that she had abilities of the different elements. And it was going back and forth, so it could get a little tricky to follow which storyline. But yeah, so up until about halfway through, I was thinking this is going to be a 3-star read for me. I'm not going to continue the series. But the second half, I enjoyed significantly more. I definitely enjoyed Rael's story, where she was going through these trials to see if she could control all 7 elements. And Eliana's story, it kind of gave me, for like the first 3/4 of the book, it gave me the vibe of the main female character in An Ember in the Ashes, when she's searching for her brother, where Eliana is searching for her mother. But about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way in, her story got more and more interesting. Also, I know it says YA, and there's only like one mention of a character towards the end being 16, but other than that, this did not feel YA, because like there's some steamy scenes that are not fade to black. They're definitely not fade to black. I quite enjoyed it, so I can't really think of these characters as teenagers. I mean, especially considering something, I can't tell what that is, but considering something that you kind of figure out later on in the story, yeah. I can't say anything without spoiling it, but I actually really enjoyed it, and the closer it got towards the end, the more I'm like, yeah, I'm going to end up wanting to continue this series after all. I like this a lot. I probably will reread this again one day in the future when I go to read the next one, because there may have been bits and pieces that I didn't fully grasp, because, like I said, it was a little confusing at first going back and forth between the two stories, but I'm going to give this one a 3.5, and I'm definitely going to continue the series. I do believe that I actually have the second book as well, so that's good. I think I do anyway. It's now 10:15. I have finished Scan by Walter Jury and Sarah Fine, and I really, really enjoyed this. It was very fast-paced. Most of it was like, you know, all these different people chasing them and trying to get this device and trying to figure out who they can trust and getting from one situation to another. And I really enjoyed it. I think I'm going to give it 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. I just finished Scrooge, #worst gift ever. This is so cute. So, like, it's told in text and emoji style. And this is, you know, a retelling, I guess. Or not really a retelling, but just like, it's the Christmas Carol, or A Christmas Carol. But like I said, told in text and emojis. And it was funny. It was cute. I love these books. I have to give this one 5 stars, because it was just a lot of fun. So I thought I would give you a little update on Frostheart. I'm on page 122 right now. So about maybe a third of the way through. And here is the Frostheart. It's a sort of a ship, but also like a sleigh. And our main character, Ash, he's an orphan. He's been living with the Fire Up people in this stronghold. But he's kind of almost seemed like a burden to a lot of them. And he sings, and singing is forbidden here. So there are these like monsters out there in the snow. Sorry, that's my computer. There's these monsters out in the snow called Leviathans, and they like hide under the snow and they attack. Well, not all of them hide under the snow, but yeah. Anyway, so the Fire people believe that singing's going to lure the Leviathans to them, and that song weavers like him can be manipulated by the Leviathan, like can be mind controlled, and that they don't want anything about it. And then the Frostheart is coming in, and they're being attacked by these Leviathan, and he believes, like with all of his being, that if he sings, he can calm the Leviathan and get them to stop attacking. And so he does, and he saves Frostheart, and they're very thankful. But the people of his stronghold are like, no, you got to go. And so he's being exiled. And also, this Yeti here was his guardian. He was the last one that would be willing to take him. And he was kind of forced upon him. But his name's Tobu. And Tobu was not happy with the Fire people for exiling this child out to the wild and, you know, risking his life. And he said that he would go into exile with him. But now it's time for they had 2 weeks to prepare to leave. And now the Frostheart is getting ready to leave. And Ash is asked to come with them, though Tobu's still asleep in the watchtower and has no idea what's going on. But after talking with the crew and with the Fire people, they agreed to let him go with Frostheart. So that's where we're at this point. I'm enjoying it a lot. The art is really, I mean, as you saw, the art's cute. And I'm enjoying it. It's currently 10:34 p.m. and I just finished Frostheart. I enjoyed this a lot. I'm giving it 4 stars. And so he ends up joining the crew of the Frostheart. And, you know, he meets all these different characters, and he's really hoping to find his parents because they left a long time ago and never returned. But he's always remembered this lullaby that was sung to him. And as he's leaving, like the head guy of the fire people gave him a message that his father made him keep until Ash was ready. And so he gave him this message, which was another verse to this lullaby. And it's kind of leading him on this path to, I guess, find them. And he's meeting other characters along the way and finding other clues along the way. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I actually want to get the sequel as well. So while I'm working on cleaning that, I'm going to have an audiobook going. I purchased on Audible 7 Days of Us by Francesca Hornack. And this says, only the most extraordinary circumstances can reunite the Birch family for the holidays. It's Christmas, and for the first time in years, the entire Birch family will be under one roof. Even Emma and Andrew's elder daughter, who is usually off saving the world, will be joining them at Wayfield Hall. But Olivia, a doctor, is only coming home because she has to. She just returned from treating an epidemic abroad and has been told she must stay in quarantine for a week. And so too should her family. For the next 7 days, the Birches are locked down, cut off from the rest of humanity, and forced into each other's orbits. Younger, unabashedly frivolous daughter Phoebe is fixated on her upcoming wedding, while Olivia deals with the culture shock of first world problems. As Andrew sequesters himself in his study, writing scathing restaurant reviews and remembering his glory days as a war correspondent, Emma hides a secret that will turn the whole family upside down. In close proximity, not much can stay hidden for long, and as revelations and long-held tensions come to light, nothing is more shocking than the unexpected guest who's about to arrive. Dun, dun, dun. So yeah, this is what I plan on listening to while I work on cleaning up this mess. I have decided that I am DNFing 7 Days of Us, and I've gotten a refund from Audible. I got about a chapter and a half in, and I was like, no, I'm not interested. None of the characters are interesting to me, and the secret that's supposed to come out, it's revealed that far in, like, you know, within like the first maybe 10 pages or so, and I'm just like, I'm really not interested in this. The big secret is apparently this woman that he had an affair with when he was in the military in Beirut. She got pregnant, and that child is now an adult and has reached out to him. So that's what the big secret is. And it's not a spoiler because it's literally at the beginning of the book. So yeah, I really have no interest. So I am going to read The Rewind by Alison Wynne Scotch instead. I did finish The Rewind by Alison Wynne Scotch. I'm going to give this one a 3.5. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. It definitely had like hangover vibes. I thought this was going to be like a time loop thing, like they woke up in the past when they were in college and all of this. It was kind of like a redo over kind of thing, but that was not what the case was. So we have Frankie and Ezra, and they broke up when they graduated college, and they haven't spoken to each other since, and they're like, I hate you, you know, and they've avoided each other, and now it's 10 years later, and one of their best friends is getting married, and they're both there for the wedding. She's going to be a bridesmaid, and he's just friends with the groom, I think, or friends with both the bride and the groom. Anyway, they both end up there at the wedding, or the things leading up to the wedding. There's like a reception and bachelor party and all that stuff. I think it was the rehearsal dinner. That's the word I'm thinking of. They were at the rehearsal dinner, and the bride and groom, they want to do like this whole scavenger hunt and everything, and everybody gets randomly put into teams, and they end up on a team together. And the next morning they wake up in his college dorm room, and like his freshman dorm room, in bed together, and she's got on his grandmother's ring, and he's wearing a wedding band. Neither one of them remember anything about that night. No clue what happened. And they think they've gotten married. They find out one of the people that was on their team had gotten ordained to be a minister online. And, he was supposed to be officiating the wedding. So they know there's a possibility that they actually got married, but they have no clue what happened. So the majority of the book is them like following little hints and clues, trying to figure out, and like getting little tidbits of memory here and there, trying to figure out what happened. Because she's got this splitting headache where at first she thought it was just a hangover, but like realized she's got a bump on her head. It was a fun time. And for him, like, okay, so for her, she just wanted to leave Ezra in the past and just really get through this. She's like, I think an agent for like rock bands and stuff like that. She just wants to get back to LA and try to keep the peace as long as she can with Ezra and just get away. And she's only there because her friend was there when she really needed it. So that's why she was there, to be a bridesmaid. That was not her normal kind of thing. And Ezra, he has a girlfriend, and he has his grandmother's ring with him because it's 1999. The wedding is happening on December 31st. And then during the reception, at midnight, he was going to propose to his girlfriend in this big epic, turn of the millennium, blah, blah, blah. And so he's freaking out because he might be married now to his ex, and they're trying to figure out what happened, remember what happened, figure out if they actually got married, all of the things. It was a fun ride. Last night, I got really tired and ended up going to bed. I just left all the mess from wrapping down here. But I did finish Blood Debts by Terry J. Benton Walker. I'm going to give this one 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. There were a lot of twists and turns. This follows Christina and Clement. Yeah, they call him Clem in the book. They're twins. Their father has passed away. Their mother in the beginning is very, very ill and deathbed ill. And they discover a hex doll under their mother's bed. And it turns out that somebody is doing this to their mom. They find out that personal belongings of theirs are also missing. And so they could be the next to fall ill or die or whatever. And they're trying to figure out who's doing this. And they also have to gather all of their mother's siblings, sisters together, because they're going to cast this protection thing and to keep them and their mother safe. Though there's a big rift between all of the siblings, and getting them all together is insane. And Christina and Clem's grandmother, who's now gone, she's passed away as well. She was supposed to be... Hi, Einstein. She was supposed to be the queen of... I don't know exactly what, but it was this big thing. She was accused of murdering some people and found guilty or whatever, was lynched, and her and her husband were lynched. And her best friend was one that gave the damning evidence and is now the one that's queen. And her family has been their family's been dishonored and all this stuff because of that. And so they're figuring out that maybe their grandmother wasn't responsible for what happened and all of this stuff, and maybe they're supposed to be in this place. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. There's a lot of stuff. There was also some sad parts. So Clem is gay, and he's dealing with people leaving him, family leaving him, his dad dying, all of these things, and he's struggling with finding a relationship that he can hold on to, and he's afraid everybody's leaving him. And so there's that. There's also a lot of dealings with racism in here and colonization and all of that stuff. And this was fantastic. So I'm giving this 4 stars. Okay, so I just finished Monsters Born and Made by Tanvi Burwa. And I'm going to give this one 4 stars as well. I really, really enjoyed it. This is like, it gives me Fourth Wing vibes without the romance. It gives me Hunger Games. Okay, so they're in this world where there's all kinds of like monster type things. There's actually a whole list in the back of the different kinds of monsters. So what's on the cover here are marstags, and that's what they hunt and train and use for these glory races. But there's lots of other ones like aquabats, capricorns, fox, floaners, gorgons, the maristag, moraine eel, raptor, scythe crab, and then there's also like the landers and the renters. It's kind of a class system type thing. And the renters are the lower class. And our main character, she's a renter. And her family catches and trains these maristags. But her youngest sister is chronically ill and needs medicine, and they can't really afford it. And she decides she is going to go into this competition, this glory race thing. And it's a very deadly competition. But she kind of has to cheat her way in. And they only take 10 competitors. And normally renters are not selected. It's rare that a renter gets in there. But she's doing it so that she can get the money, so she can help her sister and help her family and all this stuff. Also, her father is not really a nice guy, like at all, and is abusive to her mother, and kind of doesn't know why her mom would ever want to be with him, and she doesn't ever want to get married because of this. But like the vibe I got with like the competition, where they will try and be sneaky and kill each other just to knock people out of the competition. That kind of gave me a little bit of Fourth Wing vibes, but also the different games aspects to it kind of gave Hunger Game vibes. And the head lady kind of reminded me a little bit of Snow. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this, and I'm going to give it 4 stars. So the next book on the stack was Ruby Spencer's Whiskey Year by Rochelle Billow. So I just finished Ruby Spencer's Whiskey Year by Rochelle Billow, and I loved it. I'm going to have to give this one 4.5 stars. This was so cute. It was so cozy. It was a quick read. It was fun. Okay, so our main character, Ruby, she is a food writer in New York City, and she's kind of just tired of the whole hamster wheel of it all. And she throws a dart at a map in her apartment, and it ends up in Thistlewood, Scotland. And that's where she's decided she is going to start over. She's going to write a cookbook, and yeah, she's going to take a year to drink whiskey and write this cookbook and have an adventure. And Thistlewood is this very small Scottish place where they're most known for having bred the first golden retriever. And it's this cozy little town. So she's working in this pub and staying in this cottage. And the cottage doesn't have a kitchen, so she is cooking in this pub, and the owner of the pub, or sort of the owner, the renter of this pub, is helping her with her recipes and things like that. But she's struggling, and she's also kind of struggling with like, what is she doing? Was this a good idea? Was this a bad idea? There's also a lot of like relationship trauma that she's had, and she meets Brohan, and he's this gorgeous Scotsman who is just lovely, and he's always there fixing something at the cottage, and that they form a relationship. But he also has a lot of like relationship trauma as well, and family trauma, and doesn't do well with secrets being kept from him. And Ruby, she ends up keeping a secret from him, which is kind of eating away at her. But of course, you know, that it's going to blow up in their faces. And it's about this pub being sold. And Ruby knows before everybody else, and she agrees to keep it a secret, but that's a bad idea. And she kind of knows it's a bad idea, but she does it anyway. And then Grace, the owner or renter of the pub, which is Brohan's aunt, and Brohan are very like distraught over the whole sale of this pub, because even though the pub is struggling, that's sort of all she has to go on, and her place to live and all that, as well as the cottage. And the city is selling it to this man who wants to like build this Scottish themed American chain restaurant where it's not really Scottish food and stuff. And Ruby is trying to help figure out a way to make everything right. Whether that's the best choice or saving the pub is the best choice. Anyway, I loved it, and I'm going to give it a 4.5. Yesterday, I ended up finishing The Secret Bridesmaid by Katie Birchall. I really enjoyed it. Do I think I'll read it again? Probably not. I think I'm going to give this one a 3.75. It was a lot of fun. We have Sophie, who is a professional bridesmaid. She pretty much goes undercover as a bridesmaid, acts like she's known the bride for however long, fake name, whatever. And she's there to help the bride cope with all of the wedding stuff, help her run errands, help her make decisions, things like that. Not necessarily somebody that takes over like a wedding planner and plans all the things. It's just being there and that support for the bride. And she's really, really, really good at what she does. And then she gets the worst bride ever. And she is hired by the bride's mother. And the bride is a very reluctant bride. She does not want to have somebody hired to be her bridesmaid. She feels like somebody's being, she can't get a friend of her own, and she has to hire somebody because she wasn't going to have any bridesmaids. And the bride wants her to quit. Like, she tries to fire her. Her mom won't let her because her mom hired her. She tries to make her quit in some of the most absurd and ridiculous ways possible. And she gives her these outlandish jobs to do, and it was a lot of fun. Sophie ends up learning a lot about herself. We see the other side of this bride and why she is the way she is. And this does center a lot around friendships. And I did really very much enjoy it. So yes, a 3.75. So I'm just popping in here because I ended up accidentally permanently deleting the footage where I finished these two books. So I wanted to add this for my wrap up. So I think it was on December 18th that I finished The Santa Company by Berlinda Wall. And it's a little short book. It's about Santa is ready to retire, and he's yet to be able to find a replacement. Not enough people are doing selfless good deeds, and his head elf, Barnabas, keeps recommending to him that he sell the North Pole and all of that to the Santa Company and let them take over, and he can retire. And finally, Santa agrees. Under certain conditions. There's like this whole like sheet that's supposed to go with the contract on how the elves are supposed to be treated and all that, because he wants to make sure that they're okay. And that little paper doesn't actually end up making it into the contract. And right after Santa leaves to head to the South Pole for retirement, the Santa Company ends up shutting down the North Pole, moving them all the elves to some island in the middle of the Pacific with like earthquakes and volcanoes and all kinds of stuff. And it was kind of treating them like slave labor and working them to the bone. And they're trying to reach out to Santa to get him to help. And he's practically shot out of the sky when he goes to try to help. And this is him trying to save the elves and get the North Pole back and make things right. And I enjoyed it. I think I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars. And I believe it was also on the same day that I finished The Midnight Lie by Marie Ratowski. This follows a girl named Narem, who is essentially an orphan. She's been living with this in this orphan house for a while. And the mother figure is cruel, but also super sweet. She treats her like, she'll treat her badly, but then like make up for it and be like super, super kind. And Nareem almost feels like sometimes she looks forward to getting in trouble just so she can get the affection afterwards. But this world is separated into kith, like the kind of class. And there's like unkith, which are like exiled from the city. Then there's, I think she's low kith, and then there's the middle, and then high kith. And she's low kith, and because of that, there's a lot of things like she can't wear, she can't have, she can't eat, there's a lot of things she can't do. Only the high kith are allowed magic, and even things like a strawberry or something, that's not something that she could eat. Only high kith or medium, like the middle, mid kith or whatever they're called, can have. There's also this like weird thing about a bird. And this bird is like impossible to catch, and there's like rewards and all this other stuff. And somehow Narem ends up discovering one of these birds, and instead of trying to catch it, it comes to her. And so she really debates on what to do about this bird, because it's like just letting her hold it and whatever. And she decides, okay, I'm going to return this to its owner, which is a high kith. She goes to return it, only to get herself arrested for stealing it. So while she's in prison, she meets this interesting character who's kind of flirty with her, and named Sid. And when they get out, she discovers Sid is a she, and she's a little kind of confused about her feelings towards this character, but this is an LGBTQIA plus book. So there is definitely a connection there. And Narem has been making documents for the mother figure of this orphanage, making documents to help families get out of the lower kith and be able to get into the middle, where they've got a lot more freedom. And one day she decides that she is going to try and explore and find Sid, because Sid is in the medium. This was a lot of fun. There was definitely some interesting twists in here that I didn't see coming. And yeah, I can't really say too much more about it, but I very much enjoyed it. I want to continue the series, especially how it ended. I'm like, what? So yeah, I'm giving this 4 stars. So yesterday I finished The Nightmare Before Christmas by Sarah Rosh, and I very much enjoyed this. I'm going to have to give it 4 stars. And I can't give it 5 stars because the first little bit, I actually wasn't enjoying it. I really don't like Santa in this, or Mrs. Claus. They kind of suck. Technically, he's the king of Christmas. And Cole, our prince of Christmas, or one of the princes, he really believes in how things were and how they're supposed to be with Christmas, and he wants to do good. And it started out with like, he had made a major oops. So he thought he was going to do something good. He picked one city, like one small area in a country, and gave all of the wishes that everybody wished for, like all their backlog wishes, in this one city. And apparently it ended up causing like all kinds of problems. And this was like in July or something. And it caused all kinds of problems. There was like rioting, collapse of their money, all kinds of stuff. And yeah, he was kind of the big screw up at that point. But he's like the heir to the Christmas throne pretty much. And his girlfriend dumped him and all of this other stuff. And now it's, I think, years later. Oh, also, he's like in this bar drinking his sorrows essentially. And when he steps outside, he ends up talking to some random guy he thought was a bartender. And they had this kiss. And then his brother and his best friend come out the door. And the guy pretty much just disappeared. And it just so happens that that was the Prince of Halloween. And now, much later, the King of Christmas is pretty much demanding that the Prince of Christmas, Cole, marries the Princess of Easter. And Halloween's not happy about it. And they show up. And so now the Prince of Halloween is supposed to be vying for the Princess of Easter. But it's kind of a sham. And Cole doesn't want to marry her. Like, that's his best friend. And she doesn't want to marry him. Plus, his brother's been, like, in love with her for, like, ever. And he's got a thing for the Prince of Halloween. And the King of Christmas's dad has kind of been up to some shady stuff. And their whole family has been in chaos since they were kids. Because their mom left. Mrs. Claus left. And currently has a boyfriend, and she's living on some Caribbean island. But as the book went on, I really very much enjoyed it. There were some steamy scenes too. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, the Prince of Christmas, Cole, he really just wants Christmas to be what it's supposed to be. So yes, I'm giving this 4 stars. Yesterday, I finished a novel love story, and guys, I have to compare to like the other 5-star books that I have for the year, but this might be my favorite book of the year. I can't say for certain. I have to like look at all my other 5 stars, but there's a very good chance. This book had me sitting outside in my little egg chair thing, sobbing. And Marty came and to wave like through the window at me, and I'm like, he's like, what's wrong? And I was like, my book is making me cry. It was so good though. And it broke my heart, and it was also so sweet and just, So our main character, Elsie, she is kind of stuck in this stasis of her life where she found a guy that she fell in love with, and she wanted everything he wanted, and she wanted them to have this happy life together. They dated for years. They were engaged. They were planning their wedding, and a week before the wedding, he calls it off. And apparently he's been seeing somebody else, and less than a year later, he's married to the person he was cheating on her with. And she ended up having to be the one that had to call everybody and tell them the wedding was off and try to get money back from venues and things like that. And she still has her wedding dress. She still has her shoes in the box, save the date, all of that stuff. And hasn't dated or anything since. She feels like the only real love stories are those that are the fictional love stories. They can only be that way in the books. And she has this set of books that are like her favorite books. Her and her best friend Prue, who have been best friends since like the Sandbox essentially. They both love romance books. Oh, also Elsie is like an English professor. And so she's having to like read and talk about and listen to things about like the stuffy authors and all that. But she loves a good smutty rom-com or whatever. And her and her best friend Prue have this book club with some other people, and once a year they go to this cabin for like a meet up, and it's like a yearly thing that they do. And it started before virtually. It started virtually, like doing Zoom calls and stuff with this book club back while she was still with Liam. But after the breakup and everything, and Prue is just trying to really help Elsie get out of this funk that she was in, they decided they were going to do this cabin thing in like upstate New York, and it became this ritual that was super meaningful and got to take her mind off of everything, get away from the job, and just get away from everything and read some fun, like, romantic books. But this year, life has happened, and all the other members of the book club are not going to be able to be there. And Prue is unexpectedly flying to Iceland with her boyfriend. They're like sure that he's going to be proposing. And so Elsie's the only one, and she really wants to go. So she's like bound and determined, I'm going to go by myself. Doesn't matter. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to read these smutty books. I'm going to drink all this wine, and it's going to be a great time, and I'm going to relax. But along the way, she finds herself lost for something. She's like, I don't know how I'm lost because I've done this so many times before. But she finds herself lost, and then she almost runs into a man in the rain and ends up messing up her car. So she's in this little town where she almost hit the man. And she doesn't realize it that night, but the next day, she very quickly begins to realize that set of books that I mentioned earlier that I kind of got sidetracked from, her favorite set of books, this author, it's her favorite author, and she got to meet this author, and all her books are signed and personalized by this author, and it's the first four books in this series. And before the author wrote the fifth book, she died. I'll just say that because I don't know if it'll be a spoiler. She died and never finished the series. Anyway, so this small town, it turns out, is this town from the book. But it's not like the books weren't written about this town. This town literally is the books. It was created by these books. It's all it's a fictional town. So she's meeting these fictional characters and everything. And at first she's kind of like, oh crap, am I dead? This is heaven. And then it was like super exciting because she's like getting to live in her story and stuff. Her being in this town starts changing things, and there's the guy that she almost ran into. It's cute because he's like grumpy and also like sweet. She kind of has a little bit of a thing for him, but she's like, he's a fictional character, and I don't want to mess up his story. And her being there is starting to cause ripples in this world. And that's really all I can say. It's freaking fantastic. I give it 5 stars. I'm obsessed. I only have the audiobook of it, but I definitely need the physical book. Love this book. So yesterday I finished Pupcakes by Annie England Noblin, and we had our author chat live show, which I will link the author chat up here. You can go and check it out. So as I said, I finished Pupcakes. I'm going to give this one, I think, 3.75. I enjoyed it a lot. It was super cute. Love Teddy here. Teddy. This is Teddy Roosevelt the pug. So our main character, Bridie, she is recently divorced of her husband of 10 years, and she finds herself kind of starting over. Her and her husband had a bakery together, and that's closed down, and she's been living pretty much in her best friend's basement for like 6 months, and now it's like, okay, she's getting out on her own and kind of trying to find herself again. And she ends up with a job in a bakery, much like, say, like the Walmart bakery kind of place. And she's renting this house, really, really cheap, because she's also the caretaker for Teddy. So the owner of the house is in a nursing home, and want somebody like that will take care of Teddy and all of that. So Bridie, when she comes into this, she's like, I know nothing about dogs. And Teddy is a gassy, barfy pug. And yeah, she's like, I don't like this. She's not a big dog person or animal person really, for that matter. But over the time, of course, she falls in love with Teddy and might find romance in other places. But there's like, she's working out issues with her mom. There's a relationship between her and Teddy's owner, because she goes and visits, she takes Teddy to visit every week. That's part of the deal. And they develop a friendship. There's also Bridie and her best friend Elliot, and all the things that Elliot's going through as a she's a mom, and she's got I forget how old the youngest one is. She's a little kid. And then she also had a miscarriage, and now she's pregnant with her next child, her rainbow baby. And yeah, just a lot of things going on. And this was super cute, and I very much enjoyed it, and it was lovely getting to chat with her. I did finish Candy for Christmas by Joanne Fluke. Anyway, I finished that, and I'm going to give it 3 stars. It's about a girl named Candy who runs away from home, and she ends up like breaking into Hannah's bakery to have a warm place to sleep because it's the middle of winter. And Hannah discovers her because like she's cleaning and stuff up after herself, and she actually left like candy that she had made and stuff. And so Hannah ends up like offering her to work there and to help her out, while they're also trying to like figure out what's going on, why this girl, who doesn't seem like she's been homeless or run away for very long, why she ran away, and can they help her and things like that. I enjoyed it. It was a short little read. There were lots and lots and lots of recipes, which I very much enjoyed. So yes, I'm going to give this one 3 stars. Okay, so those are all of the books that I read in December. Have you read any of them? Did you like them? Did you not? Comment down below and let me know. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below. And until next time, remember to always be completely you. Bye!